I returned from the hospital with my body still aching, my legs trembling with every step, the surgery incision stinging beneath my clothes. I had been admitted for 11 days, 11 long days fighting off an infection that nearly took me, fighting the fear of never waking up, and fighting the loneliness of those white walls where not a single soul had visited me. Gregory, my son, my only child, never showed. Michelle, my daughter-in-law, didn't make a single call, send one text, nothing. When the doctor gave me the discharge papers, I had to ask a nurse to call a cab because no one was waiting for me. No one. I arrived home with the foolish hope of finding at least a note, a hot meal, a sign that someone had worried. I opened the door slowly, carrying my small bag of hospital belongings. Silence greeted me first, and then the shock hit. There was a second refrigerator in the kitchen. It was large, modern, and gleaming, planted right next to my old fridge, the one that had served us with dignity for years. I stood there, frozen, staring at it. I didn't understand. Gregory walked out of the living room with a can of beer in his hand, acting like everything was normal. Michelle followed him, carrying adhesive labels and a permanent marker. They didn't even glance at me. "What is this?" I asked, pointing at the new fridge. Gregory took a long drink before answering. "It's our fridge, Mom, for our things." "Our fridge?" I repeated, unable to believe it. Michelle knelt in front of the appliance and began sticking labels onto every shelf, writing her name in large, thick letters. Shelley, 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 on every rack, in every drawer, in every available space. "Exactly," she said without turning around. "This is for our groceries, the ones we buy with our money. We don't want them getting mixed up with yours." I felt the floor shift beneath my feet. I still had the surgery stitches pulling at my skin. It still hurt to take a deep breath, and here they were, marking territory in my own kitchen. "But this is my house," I whispered. Gregory let out a dry laugh. "Yeah, Mom, your house. But we live here too, remember? And frankly, with your meager social security, you can't afford the things we like. So we decided to get better organized." Michelle stood up, admiring her work. Every label shone like a slap across the face. "Don't take offense, Eleanor. It's just practical. You buy yours with your money, we buy ours with ours. That way there are no mix-ups." "Mix-ups?" My voice cracked. "I have never, ever denied you anything from my fridge." "We know," Gregory said, crushing the empty can. "But this is better, more orderly, more fair." Fair. That word echoed in my head like a broken bell. I looked at my old, half-empty fridge and then at their new, overflowing one. Two worlds divided, two realities separated by an invisible yet brutal line. The haves and the barely surviving, the ones who matter and the ones who are just dead weight. "Besides," Michelle continued, opening the new fridge to show me the interior, which was stocked with expensive cuts of meat, imported cheeses, and costly wines. "We have certain standards. We don't like eating the same stuff you do. No offense." No offense. As if those words could somehow soften the poison. Gregory approached and patted my shoulder condescendingly. "Relax, Mom. It's nothing personal. It's just that, well, you're not young anymore. Your pension barely covers the basics. We need more. We deserve more." Deserve. Another word that sliced through me like a knife. I wanted to say something. I wanted to scream that I had worked 35 years in a manufacturing plant, ruining my back to give him everything he needed. I wanted to remind them that I sold my mother's jewelry to pay for his private college tuition. I wanted to cry and ask them how they could treat me this way after everything, but I said nothing. My body was too tired, my heart too broken. The surgery stitches throbbed, reminding me that I had barely survived something terrible. I didn't have the strength to fight. "I'm going to rest," I murmured, dragging my bag toward the small room in the back. "Sure, Mom, rest up," Gregory said, already turning toward the living room where the television was waiting. Michelle closed her fridge with a satisfied thud. The sound resonated through the kitchen, through the whole house, and through my entire chest. I walked down the hall, feeling every step as torture. The small back room was tiny, barely enough space for a twin bed and an old wardrobe. It used to be my sewing room. Now it was my exile. Gregory and Michelle had moved in a year ago. "Just until we find something better," they had said. They never found it. Instead, they gradually took up more and more space. First my master bedroom, then the living room, then every corner of what was once my home. And I let them, out of love, out of fear of being alone, out of the stupid hope that things would improve. I sat on the bed and the tears finally came, hot, bitter, silent. From outside, I heard their laughter, the television blaring, the sound of the new fridge opening and closing, the clinking of wine glasses. They were celebrating. Celebrating what, I didn't know. Maybe they were celebrating finally putting me in my place. Maybe they were celebrating that they no longer had to fake respect. Maybe they were celebrating that the old woman, the nuisance, had accepted her fate without a fight. I lay down slowly, every muscle protesting. I closed my eyes but couldn't sleep. The images kept flashing like a cruel movie. The fridge with the labels, Michelle's smug smile, Gregory's icy indifference, the words they had thrown at me like stones. "Your meager pension. We don't want to mix our things with yours. You're not young anymore. We deserve more." Each phrase was another nail in the coffin of our relationship. Every word confirmed what I had known deep down but refused to accept. To them, I wasn't a mother anymore. I was a burden, dead weight, someone to exploit until they squeezed the last drop out of me. And the worst part was that I had allowed it. Year after year, abuse after abuse, humiliation after humiliation. But something shifted in that moment. Something broke inside me as I lay on that narrow bed, in that dark little room, in that house that no longer felt like mine. A decision began to form, slow, firm, inevitable. I opened my eyes in the darkness and a certainty filled my chest. They had made a mistake, a terrible mistake. They thought I was weak. They thought I had given up. They thought they could do whatever they wanted without consequences. But they were wrong. When they woke up in the morning, they would see something they would never forget. In the morning, they would learn who Eleanor Hayes truly was, and that lesson would cost them everything. I couldn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those labels. Shelley, 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 like brand marks on cattle, like declarations of ownership over something that never belonged to them. I stared at the cracked ceiling of the small room, listening to their laughter drift in from the living room. They were watching a show, drinking wine from that new fridge, enjoying their small victory over the worthless old lady, because that was who I was to them now. A worthless old lady with a meager pension, 68 years old, a lifetime of work, and this was my reward. The tears kept falling, but now they were different. They weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of rage, of indignation, of something that had been buried for years and was finally beginning to wake up. I remembered when Gregory was born, 42 years ago. I was 26. His father, Bernard, worked in construction, and I was at the factory. We lived in a tiny apartment, but we were happy. Or so I thought. Gregory was our miracle after 3 losses. I cared for him as if he were made of glass. I gave him everything, absolutely everything. When Bernard died 15 years ago from a sudden heart attack on the job, I thought the world was ending. Gregory was 27. He was already an adult with his own life, but he promised to take care of me. "You'll never want for anything, Mom. I'll always be here." Lies. It was all lies. The first few years after Bernard's death were tough but manageable. Gregory would visit, take me to the market, and fix things around the house. Then he met Michelle. She arrived 8 years ago like a hurricane. beautiful, self-assured, ambitious. She worked in cosmetic sales but lived like she was a corporate executive. Expensive clothes, perfect nails, hair always done at the city's most exclusive salon. From the start, I noticed something in her eyes, a coldness, a constant calculation. She looked at me, evaluating how much I was worth, what she could get out of me. "She's a little intense," I told Gregory once, trying to be gentle. "You're jealous, Mom. Michelle is amazing. She's exactly what I need." Jealous. Worried, I corrected internally, but he refused to listen. They got married 6 months after meeting, a costly wedding that I helped pay for because he was my only son and he deserved the best. $10,000 of my savings, money I had guarded for years by working overtime. "We'll pay it back, Mom, as soon as we get settled." I never saw a single cent returned. After the wedding, visits became sparse, calls became brief, but requests for money multiplied. "Mom, we need $1,000 for the apartment deposit." "Mom, the car broke down. We need $3,000 for the repair." "Mom, Michelle needs urgent dental work. That's $5,000. Always urgent, always necessary, always presented with guilt if I hesitated. You don't want your son to have a decent roof over his head? You'd prefer us driving around in a dangerous car? Do you want Michelle to suffer from a toothache? And I paid, over and over, because he was my son. Because a mother's love has no limits. Because I was afraid that if I said no, they would disappear from my life forever. When I retired 2 years ago, I thought I could finally rest. 35 years at the factory had left me with arthritis in my hands, chronic back pain, and a modest Social Security check of $800 a month. It wasn't much, but it was mine. Bernard, my late husband, had left me this small but paid-for house in a quiet neighborhood, my refuge, my security. Then the pandemic hit and everything changed. Gregory lost his sales job. Michelle lost hers, too. Suddenly, they showed up at my door with suitcases. "It's temporary, Mom, just until we get back on our feet. A couple of months." A couple of months turned into a year, and in that year, everything rotted. In the beginning, they paid some expenses, bought groceries, helped with the bills, but little by little, they stopped. "We're looking for work, Mom. It's hard out there. We barely have enough for ourselves." But Michelle kept buying new clothes. Gregory kept ordering craft beers. They both went out to expensive dinners while I ate eggs and toast. Then came the territorial takeover. First, the master bedroom. "We need more space, Mom. You can sleep in the small room. It's cozier." Cozier. What a cruel word to describe that tiny box. Then the living room. "We'll put our new television here. Yours is too old now." My television worked perfectly. Theirs was unnecessary, but it arrived anyway. Gigantic, noisy, invading my space. After that, they started controlling the kitchen. Michelle reorganized everything. She threw away my old pots. "These things are hideous, Eleanor. So embarrassing." They were the pots I had used to cook for Gregory his whole childhood, the ones Bernard gave me for our first anniversary. I saw them in the trash and said nothing. I swallowed the pain just as I had been swallowing everything else. The requests for money continued, but now they were different, more aggressive, more demanding. "Mom, I need you to lend me $2,000 for a course that will help me get a job." "Mom, Michelle needs a new phone. Hers doesn't work anymore. That's $1,000. "Mom, we have to pay the credit card bill or we'll get sued. $4,000, urgent." Every time I hesitated, the emotional blackmail started. "After everything I've done for you," any mother would do this for her son. "If you really loved me, you wouldn't hesitate." And the worst one, the one Michelle said with a venomous smile, "One day, we'll be the ones taking care of you, Eleanor. You'd better be generous now." Generous. I had been so generous that I had almost nothing left. My savings evaporated. The $30,000 I had accumulated over decades of sacrifice were gone in 2 years, spent on whims, luxuries, and lies disguised as needs. 3 months ago, I tried to open a separate emergency savings account, one that Bernard had set up. It held $8,000, my last reserve. It was empty. "What happened to the money in the emergency account?" I asked Gregory, trembling. He barely looked up from his phone. "Oh, I used that to pay off some debts. I was going to tell you." "How did you access that account? It was only mine. You gave me the key years ago, Mom. Don't you remember?" I didn't remember. Maybe I had given it to him in a moment of trust. Maybe he had taken it from a notebook. It didn't matter. The money was gone. "Debts for what?" I insisted. "Things, expenses. Don't worry about it." Don't worry about it. As if I were a stupid child who understood nothing. That night, I cried until I had no tears left. I cried for Bernard, who had worked so hard to leave me secure. I cried for myself, for allowing all this. I cried for the son I thought I had, who no longer existed. And now, after 11 days in the hospital fighting for my life, without them showing up even once, I returned to find this, a divided fridge, with labels marking their contempt, with words that confirmed what I already knew. To them, I was garbage, a depleted resource, someone to continue exploiting until nothing was left. I sat on the bed and took a deep breath, ignoring the pain of the stitches. Something inside me had shifted. The Eleanor who always yielded, who always forgave, who always put her son first, had died in that hospital bed. The one who had returned was different, harder, clearer, more determined. They wanted a war. They would get a war, but not tonight. Tonight, I needed to rest. I needed to think. I needed to plan. I closed my eyes, and finally, sleep arrived. It was heavy, dark, and filled with dreams where I was strong, and they were the ones crying. In the morning, everything would change. In the morning, my revenge would begin. I woke up before dawn at 5 o'clock. The house was absolutely silent. Gregory and Michelle were still sleeping in my room, in my matrimonial bed under the sheets I had bought with my first retirement check. I got up slowly, feeling every muscle protest. The surgery stitches pulled, but the pain no longer scared me. There were worse pains than physical ones. I knew that well now. I walked to the kitchen like a phantom. The new fridge shone in the darkness. Those damned labels reflected the faint light coming through the window. Shelley, Shelley, Shelley. I opened my old, half-empty fridge. A carton of milk, 3 eggs, some cheap cheese, bread from the day before, and that was all I had to eat. My $800 pension went toward medicine, utilities, and the loans Gregory wrangled from me every month. Then, just to confirm what I already knew, I opened their fridge. Stocked. Absolutely stocked. Imported steaks, salmon, shrimp, 3 types of French cheese, wines that cost more than $50 a bottle, exotic fruits, gourmet pastries, premium cold cuts. I closed the door, feeling a mix of rage and disgust. They ate like royalty while I survived on scraps. They indulged in luxuries while I counted pennies to buy bread, and they did it in my house with my money under my roof. I poured myself a glass of water and sat at the kitchen table. I needed to think clearly. I needed a plan. I could kick them out. It was my house. Legally, it was in my name. But Gregory had made me sign a paper 6 months ago. It's just to update the will, Mom, to keep everything in order. I signed without reading closely. I trusted him. I had always trusted him. What had I really signed? I didn't know, and that terrified me. I could leave myself, look for a small apartment, leave them the house, and disappear. But with what money? My pension barely covered survival. Rent would leave me on the street. I could confront them, shout everything I felt, but I had tried that before. It always ended the same. They would deny, manipulate, and make me feel guilty for doubting their love. Mom, how can you think that about us? We're taking care of you, don't you see? You're so ungrateful. No. This time, I wouldn't fall into that trap. I heard a noise upstairs. Footsteps. They were waking up. I quickly retreated to the small room and closed the door. I didn't want to see them yet. Not until I knew exactly what to do. I lay down again, pretending to sleep while listening to their morning movements. The shower running. Michelle yelling at Gregory because he used her expensive shampoo. Gregory answering indifferently, both of them arguing about who would make breakfast. No one mentioned my name. No one asked how I had spent the night. No one knocked on my door to see if I needed anything after 11 days in the hospital. I simply didn't exist to them. Around 9 in the morning, I heard them leave. The front door slammed shut. The car started and drove away. I waited 10 more minutes to make sure they wouldn't come back for something forgotten. Then I left the small room. The house was a mess. Dirty dishes in the sink, clothes strewn on the sofa, food wrappers everywhere. They had eaten smoked salmon and cream cheese for breakfast. The leftovers were on the counter, uncovered, attracting flies. I cleaned mechanically, not because I wanted to, but because it was what I had always done, cleaning up their messes, collecting their waste, erasing their tracks. As I washed the dishes, I saw my neighbor, Beverly Jenkins, watering her plants through the window. Beverly was 71, also a widow, and lived alone, but she looked happy, always smiling, always dressed nicely, always at peace. We had known each other for 20 years, but we had never been close, just polite greetings, comments about the weather, nothing deep. But in that moment, seeing her there with her watering can and straw hat, I felt a terrible envy. She had what I had lost: dignity, autonomy, peace. As if sensing my gaze, Beverly turned and saw me at the window. She waved. I waved back weakly. Then she did something unexpected. She put down the watering can and walked toward my house. She knocked on the door. I hesitated. I didn't want anyone to see me like this, destroyed, humiliated. But something compelled me to open it. "Eleanor." "Hello," Beverly said with a warm smile. "I saw you got back from the hospital yesterday. How are you doing?" How was I doing? Such a simple question and so impossible to answer. "I'm getting better," I lied. Beverly studied me with those wise eyes that had seen too much life. "May I come in for a minute?" I don't know why I said yes. Maybe because I desperately needed to talk to someone who wasn't Gregory or Michelle. Maybe because her gaze contained something I had forgotten existed. Genuine compassion. We went into the kitchen. Beverly saw the 2 fridges immediately. Her eyes widened in surprise. "That's new," she commented, trying to sound neutral. "It's for my son and daughter-in-law, for their things," I explained, feeling the shame burn on my cheeks. Beverly didn't say anything for a moment. She just observed the labels with Michelle's name. Then she looked directly at me. "Eleanor, forgive me for being direct, but I need to tell you something I've wanted to say for months." My heart raced. "What is it?" "Your son and daughter-in-law. I hear them sometimes. The walls aren't that thick. I hear how they speak to you, how they treat you." I lowered my gaze. Humiliation was burning my throat. "Last night," Beverly continued, her voice soft but firm, "when you arrived from the hospital, I heard everything. I heard what they said to you about the fridge, about your pension, about your groceries." Tears started falling before I could stop them. "And I heard something else." Beverly moved closer and placed her hand over mine. "After you went to sleep, I kept listening." "What did they say?" I whispered, even though part of me didn't want to know. Beverly took a deep breath. "They were celebrating, toasting with wine, and Michelle told Gregory something that chilled my blood. She said, 'It won't be long now. The old lady can't last much longer. When she passes, this house will be all ours. It's worth at least $200,000. We can sell it and finally live well.'" The world stopped spinning. Beverly squeezed my hand. Gregory laughed and said, "I hope she hurries up. I'm tired of pretending to care." Something inside me broke, not my heart. That was already shattered. Something deeper, more fundamental. The illusions, the hopes, the idea that somewhere, underneath all the cruelty, my son still loved me. There's more. Beverly said. "I've seen things. Strange movements. 2 weeks ago, I saw Gregory leaving the bank with papers. He looked nervous, and Michelle has been receiving large packages, boxes and boxes. She brings them into the house when you're not around." "What kind of boxes?" "I don't know, but they're many and expensive looking." My mind started working. What were they hiding? What else had they concealed from me? "Eleanor." Beverly looked at me seriously. "You have to investigate. You have to find out what they're really doing, because something tells me it's much worse than you imagine." She was right. I knew it in my bones. "I don't know how," I admitted. "I don't know where to start." "I'll help you. I have a friend, Arthur Dawson. He's a lawyer, retired, but still very active. He likes to help with cases like this, cases of family abuse." Family abuse. I had never thought of it as abuse, but that was exactly what it was. Abuse, exploitation, mistreatment. "Would you talk to him?" Beverly asked. I thought about Gregory, about all the times I had trusted him, about all the times he had failed me. I thought about Michelle, her fake smiles, her fridge labels, her venomous words. I thought about myself, the woman I was, the woman I deserved to be. "Yes," I finally said, my voice firmer than it had been in years. "Yes, I'll talk to him." Beverly smiled. "Good. I'll call him right now. He can come this afternoon while they're out." She pulled out her phone and dialed. She spoke in a low voice, explaining the situation. Every word she said made me feel more real, more valid, more seen. She hung up and looked at me with determination. "He'll be here at 3. Bring everything you have. Bank statements, documents, anything you've signed, everything." I nodded. For the first time in years, I felt something akin to hope. Beverly stood up to leave, but first she hugged me, a strong maternal hug, the kind of embrace I hadn't received since Bernard died. "You're not alone, Eleanor, not anymore." When she left, I stayed sitting in the kitchen, looking at those 2 fridges. But now I saw them differently. They were no longer symbols of my humiliation. They were evidence of cruelty, of abuse, of systematic exploitation. And soon, they would be the proof I needed to reclaim my life. The hours until 3 o'clock dragged on like years. I moved through the house like a detective in my own home, looking for documents, papers, anything that could serve as evidence. I started with my room, or what used to be my room. The master bedroom now completely belonged to Gregory and Michelle. Entering felt like invading enemy territory. I opened the door slowly. The room smelled of Michelle's expensive perfume. The bed was unmade. Clothes were scattered everywhere, and boxes were piled against the wall. The same boxes Beverly had spoken about. I approached to examine them. They were from luxury brands. Shoes, purses, designer clothes. Each box represented hundreds, maybe thousands of dollars. Where had they gotten that money? I opened the closet. More new clothes, dresses with the tags still attached, expensive suits. Michelle had at least 20 pairs of high-heeled shoes that cost more than $300 each. Gregory had watches, 4 brand-name watches lined up in a special box. I recognized one. It was a fake Rolex, probably, but even the good imitations cost over $1,000. How could they have all this if they were supposedly unemployed, if they supposedly couldn't afford to help with household expenses? I checked the drawers of Gregory's nightstand. Chargers, headphones, crumpled papers, receipts. I took the receipts. Expensive restaurants, bars, online purchases. One was from a casino, $500 lost in a single night 3 weeks ago. I slipped the receipts into my pocket. In Michelle's drawer, I found credit card statements. 3 different cards, all with huge debts. One had a $20,000 balance, another $8,000, the third $5,000. $33,000 in credit card debt. But what chilled my blood was seeing another card, one I didn't recognize. The statement had my name on it. Eleanor Hayes. Credit limit $10,000. Current balance $9,950. I had never applied for that card. My hands trembled as I read the charges. Furniture, electronics, clothing, restaurants, travel, all signed with my name, but none of it used by me. Gregory had opened a credit card in my name without my permission and had maxed it out. That was fraud. That was a crime. I took the statement and kept searching. I found more papers, contracts, loan documents, all with my signature. When had I signed all this? I tried to remember. Gregory constantly put papers in front of me. Sign here, Mom, it's for the insurance. Sign here, Mom, it's to renew the house registration. I need your signature for this bank process. I signed without reading. I trusted him. He was my son, and he had used that trust to rob me, to bury me in debt, to financially destroy me. I found one paper that took my breath away. It was an application for a $50,000 home equity loan against the house. My house, the one Bernard left me. Gregory had tried to use the house as collateral. The application was marked as pending approval. It hadn't been processed yet, but the intention was clear, cruel. They wanted to take my house. Not wait until I died. Take it now. I gathered all the papers I found and took them to the small room. I hid them under the mattress. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it would explode. Then I went to the kitchen and looked for my own documents, the ones I kept in a cookie tin on top of the cabinet. Bank statements, pension receipts, medical bills. I pulled out the last 6 months of bank statements and began reviewing them carefully. There were transfers I didn't recognize, large withdrawals. $500 here, $800 there, $1,000 further on. Small amounts that added up to thousands. And there were automatic charges, subscriptions to premium streaming services, exclusive gyms, gourmet food delivery apps, all in my name, all charged to my account. I did the math mentally. In the last 6 months, they had taken nearly $20,000 from my account through transfers, withdrawals, and unauthorized charges. $20,000 that I hadn't spent, that I didn't even know was missing, because Gregory helped me review the accounts every month. He only showed me what he wanted me to see. The manipulation was perfect, systematic, calculated. At 2:30 in the afternoon, I organized all the documents into a folder, papers that proved fraud, theft, financial elder abuse, exploitation of a senior citizen, because that was who I was now, a vulnerable senior citizen being exploited by her own family. At exactly 3 o'clock, Beverly knocked on the door. She was accompanied by a tall man of about 65, with perfectly combed gray hair and eyes that conveyed intelligence and kindness. "Eleanor, this is Arthur. Arthur, this is Eleanor." Arthur extended his hand. His grip was firm but warm. "A pleasure, Eleanor. Beverly told me about your situation. I want you to know I'm here to help you free of charge. This is personal for me." "Personal?" I asked, inviting them to sit at the kitchen table. "My mother went through something similar years ago," Arthur explained, his face shadowing. "My brother financially exploited her until she was left with nothing. When we finally found out, it was too late. She died feeling betrayed and ruined. I swore I would help other people in her situation to honor her memory." His words touched me deeply. I wasn't alone. Other families had lived through this. Other mothers had been betrayed by their children. "Show me what you found," Arthur said, pulling out a notepad. I laid all the documents on the table one by one. The bank statements, the fraudulent credit cards, the unauthorized loans, the receipts for excessive expenses, the home equity loan application. Arthur reviewed every paper with professional attention. His expression hardened with each document. "This is serious, Eleanor. Very serious," he finally said. "What your son has done constitutes several felonies: identity fraud, theft, financial elder abuse, forgery of documents." "Can he go to jail?" I asked, feeling a mix of horror and satisfaction. "He could, if you decide to file criminal charges. But first, let's talk about your options." Arthur took out a pen and began to write. Option 1, family confrontation. You show them what you know, demand they stop the abuse, and negotiate a repayment plan for what was stolen. This is fast, but it rarely works. Abusers generally deny, manipulate, and continue. I knew he was right. Gregory would deny everything. Michelle would cry and make me feel guilty. Option 2, Arthur continued, civil legal action. You sue for the money stolen. You request restraining orders. You force them to return everything plus damages. This takes time, 6 months, maybe a year. But you would eventually recover your money. And option 3? Arthur looked directly at me. Criminal action. You file charges for fraud. The police investigate. If there's enough evidence, and there is here, your son and daughter-in-law could face criminal charges, jail time, criminal records, severe consequences. Silence filled the kitchen. Beverly put her hand over mine. You don't have to decide now, Arthur said softly, but if you need to act quickly, look at this. He pointed to the home equity loan application. If this gets approved, you could lose your house. We need to block it immediately. How? First, we go to the bank early tomorrow morning. You cancel all authorizations you've given Gregory. You change your passwords. You freeze your credit so he can't open more accounts in your name. Second, we alert the bank about the fraud. We dispute all unauthorized charges. Third, we put the house into a trust that protects your property. It all sounded so complicated, so overwhelming. I know it's a lot, Arthur said, as if reading my thoughts, but I will guide you every step of the way. You are not alone in this. And in the meantime, I asked, they keep living here? Keep robbing me? That is your decision. Legally, you can start an eviction process. As the homeowner, you have that right, but it takes weeks. Or you can confront them right now, tell them you discovered everything, and they have to leave. The idea terrified and thrilled me at the same time. What would you do? I asked him. Arthur thought for a moment. I would document everything first. I would take photos of the boxes, the expensive clothes, the fridge with the labels. I would gather all possible evidence. Then, when you are ready, when everything is legally protected, that's when I would confront them from a position of strength, not weakness. It made sense. Perfect sense. Is there anything else I should know? Arthur added. Beverly mentioned that she overheard your daughter-in-law talking about waiting for your death to take the house. I nodded, the pain still fresh. That kind of comment can be used in court, especially if we are talking about elder abuse with intent to exploit to the end. It's an aggravating factor. How do we prove she said it? Beverly raised her hand timidly. I can testify. I heard everything clearly. Perfect, Arthur said. An independent witness strengthens the case tremendously. We reviewed everything for 2 more hours. Arthur took copies of all the documents. We made a list of immediate actions. We planned every step. When we finished, I felt different, stronger, clearer. For the first time in years, I felt I had control over my life. Arthur and Beverly left around 5. Gregory and Michelle would be home soon. I put all the original documents in a bag and gave it to Beverly to keep at her house. I couldn't risk them finding them. At 6 o'clock, I heard the car arrive. Voices, laughter, the door opening. I took a deep breath and walked out of the small room. It was time to start fighting. Gregory and Michelle walked in, carrying shopping bags, bags from expensive stores, brands I could never afford. They were laughing about something one of them had said in the car. They saw me standing in the living room, and their laughter died, as if my presence ruined their good mood. "Hey, Mom," Gregory said without emotion. "What are you doing standing there?" "We need to talk," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. Michelle rolled her eyes. "We're tired right now. It was a long day." A long day of shopping with money they didn't have, or rather, with money they did have, mine. "This is important," I insisted. Gregory sighed dramatically. "Fine. What is it?" I wanted to yell everything I had discovered. I wanted to throw the papers in their faces, but I remembered Arthur's words. Document, protect, then confront from a position of strength. I want us to go to the bank together tomorrow, I said, measuring every word. The bank? For what? Gregory dropped the bags onto the sofa. I need to check my accounts. Some strange things have happened, charges I don't recognize. I saw something flicker in Gregory's eyes. Fear, guilt. It disappeared so fast I almost thought I had imagined it. They're probably your medications, Mom, or utility bills. You know how it is. No, they're other things. Large transfers. I want to review it with you. Michelle crossed her arms. Eleanor, don't insult Gregory. He's been helping you with your finances because you don't understand any of that stuff. You don't understand any of that stuff. Another way of saying I was stupid, incapable, useless. That's precisely why I want to go to the bank, to understand better, I replied, keeping my composure. Gregory exchanged a look with Michelle. Something silent passed between them. I can't go tomorrow. I have a job interview, he said quickly. An interview where? At a tech company. Very important. I can't cancel. A lie. I could see it in how he avoided my gaze, in how his hands moved nervously. Then the day after tomorrow, I proposed. God, what a hassle, Michelle muttered, opening her fridge, the one with her name on the labels. She pulled out a bottle of very expensive wine. If you have doubts, check your statement online. Gregory taught you how to do it. He taught me how to do it, but he never gave me the real passwords. He always helped me log in with his phone. I prefer to go in person, I insisted. Geez, what a pain, Michelle muttered. She came back with 2 glasses of wine. She handed one to Gregory. They didn't even offer me a glass. They drank in front of me as if celebrating something. You know what, Mom? Gregory said after taking a long drink. You're being ungrateful. After everything we've done for you. Everything you've done for me. The words came out harsher than I planned. Yes, we live here to take care of you. We could be in our own place, living our lives, but no. We're here putting up with things, sacrificing ourselves. Sacrificing yourselves? In my house, eating my food, spending my money? No one asked you to stay, I said softly. The silence that followed was dense, dangerous. Michelle slammed her glass down on the table. You know what? I'm sick of your attitude, Eleanor. You came back from the hospital yesterday with that martyr look, as if we're the villains in your story. I never said you don't have to. We can see it in how you look at us, how you talk, as if we owe you something. I gave you everything, I whispered. Everything. Michelle laughed a cruel laugh. You gave Gregory a mediocre childhood in a forgettable neighborhood. You raised him with limitations, with a poor mentality. We've had to work twice as hard to overcome all that. Every word was a stab. Gregory didn't stop her. He just drank his wine, looking away. I broke my back working to give him the best, I said, feeling the tears threaten. The best? Please. The best would have been giving him real opportunities, connections, a better life, but instead you filled him with guilt and obligation. Michelle, enough, Gregory murmured, but without conviction. It's time she heard the truth. Eleanor, you are a burden. You always have been. Gregory is too nice to tell you, but I'm not. Living here is a huge sacrifice. Tolerating you is exhausting. The tears fell. I couldn't stop them. If it's such a sacrifice, I said through sobs, you can leave whenever you want. Gregory put down his glass. He approached me with a serious expression. Mom, this is our house as much as it's yours. Dad would have wanted it this way, a family house. Your father left it to me because he assumed you would share it with your family, with us. His tone was final. There was no room for discussion. Michelle gathered the shopping bags. I'm going to put these away. Greg, help me. I watched them go upstairs with their expensive purchases. I heard the door of my former bedroom close. I was left alone in the living room, trembling. The confrontation had gone worse than I imagined. They hadn't admitted anything. They had twisted everything to make me feel guilty, but something had changed. I no longer doubted. I no longer questioned if I was exaggerating. Michelle's words had been crystal clear. I was a burden, a nuisance, someone to tolerate until I died. I went to the small room and took out my phone. I texted Beverly. I need to go to the bank first thing tomorrow. Can Arthur still come with us? The reply came in seconds. Of course. We'll pick you up at 8. I put the phone away and sat on the bed. Upstairs, I heard their voices. They were speaking normally now, probably laughing at me, the foolish old woman who was finally figuring out the truth. But I wasn't foolish anymore, and tomorrow I would start taking back what was mine. I didn't eat dinner that night. I wasn't hungry. I just went to bed early, listening to their footsteps upstairs, the television on, their occasional laughter. I closed my eyes and thought of Bernard, how he had worked so hard to protect me, how disappointed he would be to see his son like this. "Forgive me, Bernard," I whispered in the dark. "I let them destroy what you built, but I'm going to fix it. I promise." And for the first time in months, I slept soundly, because I knew the war had begun, and this time I wouldn't lose. I woke up at 6 in the morning. It was still dark outside. The house was silent. Gregory and Michelle were sleeping soundly after emptying another bottle of wine the night before. I got dressed carefully. I chose my best clothes, an outfit I had bought for Bernard's funeral and rarely wore. I wanted to look dignified, strong, not like the sick old woman they thought I was. By 7:30, I was ready. I took my purse with the few documents I had kept. The rest was safely at Beverly's house. I heard movement upstairs, steps toward the bathroom. Gregory was waking up. I left the small room and went to the kitchen. I made coffee. I acted normally, as if nothing had happened last night, as if their words hadn't shattered me. Gregory came downstairs in pajamas, his hair messy. He seemed surprised to find me awake. "Morning," he said, his voice husky from sleep and wine. "Good morning." "Coffee?" "Yeah, thanks." He sat at the table, checking his phone. I poured him a cup. My hands didn't tremble. I was surprisingly calm. "You going out?" he asked, noticing my clothes. "I have a doctor's appointment, post-op checkup." A lie, but a necessary one. "Ah, you want me to take you?" "No, Beverly is taking me. We already arranged it." Gregory nodded, immediately losing interest. He went back to his phone. At exactly 8 o'clock, I heard a car horn outside. Beverly had arrived. "I'm leaving now," I announced, picking up my purse. "Take care, Mom," Gregory said without looking up. I walked out of the house, feeling every step as a liberation. The cool morning air filled my lungs. Beverly was in her car. Arthur was in the passenger seat. "Morning, Eleanor," Beverly greeted me with a warm smile. "Ready?" Arthur asked. "Ready," I replied, getting into the back seat. The bank was 20 minutes away. On the way, Arthur went over the plan. "First, we'll speak with the manager. We'll explain the fraud situation. We'll request copies of all transactions for the last 2 years. Then, we'll cancel any authorization they have on your accounts. We'll change passwords. And finally, we'll set up security alerts to prevent future fraud." It sounded simple when he put it that way, but my stomach was tied in knots. We arrived at the bank just as it was opening. The building was modern, with large glass windows. We went inside, and Arthur went straight to the customer service desk. "We need to speak with the branch manager. It's an urgent matter of bank fraud." The employee, a young woman with a professional demeanor, looked at us seriously. "One moment, please." She disappeared behind some doors. 5 minutes later, she returned with a man in his 50s. Gray suit, kind expression. "I'm Marcus Johnson, the branch manager. How can I help you?" Arthur extended his hand. "I'm Arthur Dawson, attorney. I represent Ms. Eleanor Hayes in a case of financial fraud." Marcus led us to a private office. He closed the door. "Please, explain the situation to me." Arthur spoke first, presenting the case clearly and professionally. Then it was my turn. My voice was shaky at first, but I gained strength as I recounted everything. The unauthorized loans, the credit cards opened in my name, the transfers I didn't recognize. Marcus listened carefully, taking notes. His expression grew more serious with every detail. "Do you have documents to support this?" he asked. I placed the copies of the fraudulent bank statements on the desk. Marcus reviewed them carefully. "This is very serious," he finally said. "I'll need you to fill out a formal fraud report. We will also immediately review all your accounts." The next hour was spent on his computer, reviewing every transaction. His expression grew darker and darker. "Ms. Hayes," he said after a long silence, "there are multiple irregularities. Large transfers to accounts you don't recognize, withdrawals from ATMs far from your usual area, recurring charges for services you say you never contracted." "How much?" I asked, afraid of knowing. Marcus did some calculations. "In the last 2 years, approximately $42,000 has left your accounts in transactions you did not authorize." $42,000. I felt dizzy. Beverly held my arm. "And this," Marcus continued, pointing to his screen, "this is a home equity loan requested 2 weeks ago for $50,000 using your house as collateral." "I never authorized that." "I know, and the signature on the application is suspicious. It appears forged." Marcus showed me the digital document. The signature looked like mine, but there were subtle differences. "Gregory has access to my documents." "He could have copied it," I said. "That constitutes forgery, a serious felony." Marcus looked at Arthur. "Will you be proceeding legally?" "Yes," Arthur replied firmly. "We will be filing criminal charges." Marcus nodded. "I am going to freeze that loan immediately. It will not be processed, and I will initiate the fraud protocol to recover the stolen funds from your accounts." Another hour was spent filling out forms, signing declarations, changing passwords, and canceling authorizations. Marcus removed Gregory's name from all my accounts. He no longer had access. He could no longer touch my money. The credit cards opened in my name without authorization would be canceled. The debts would be disputed. "You are not responsible for paying fraudulent charges," Marcus explained. "And the money they already took? The $42,000? "The bank will launch an investigation. If fraud is confirmed, which seems highly probable, your son and daughter-in-law will have to repay it with interest or face criminal charges." We left the bank 3 hours later. I carried a thick folder with copies of everything: fraud reports, detailed bank statements, clear evidence of every crime. In the car, Beverly hugged me. "You did so well, Eleanor." "This is only the beginning," Arthur said. "Now comes the hard part, confronting them." "When?" I asked. "When you're ready, but I suggest it be soon, before they discover you went to the bank." I looked out the window. The streets sped by. Normal people living normal lives, families who truly loved each other. "I want to do it today," I said suddenly. "Tonight, when they get back from work, or wherever they go to pretend to work." Arthur smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. It was one of approval, of respect. "Then tonight it is. We will be with you. You will not face this alone." We returned home around noon. Gregory and Michelle were not there. They were out. Beverly and Arthur came in with me. They looked at the 2 fridges, the labels with Michelle's name, the luxuries throughout the house, the expensive clothes, the new appliances. "All of this," Arthur said, pointing around, "was bought with stolen money. It's all evidence." He took out his phone and started taking pictures of the fridges, the boxes of designer clothes in the master bedroom, the receipts we found, everything. "We need to document the lifestyle they maintain versus the income they claim to have," he explained. "This proves they are living on illicit funds." We spent the afternoon preparing for the confrontation. Arthur wrote down key points. Beverly made tea and forced me to eat something. By 5 in the afternoon, the plan was ready. At 6, we heard the car arrive. Beverly and Arthur positioned themselves in the living room. I stood in front of the door. Gregory and Michelle walked in, laughing. They froze when they saw the visitors. "What's going on here?" Gregory asked, his tone immediately defensive. "Sit down," I said. My voice was firmer than I had expected. "We need to talk." Mom, what is this? Who is he? Michelle pointed at Arthur. I am Arthur Dawson, legal counsel for Ms. Hayes. The color drained from Gregory's face. Counsel! Mom! What did you do? I took a deep breath. This was the moment. There was no turning back. I found out everything, Gregory. Everything. The silence that followed was deafening. Gregory and Michelle stood frozen in the entryway, their faces shifting from shock to confusion and finally to poorly concealed fear. Found out what? Michelle asked, trying to sound outraged, but her voice cracked. Arthur stood up. He had that presence that only experienced lawyers possess, authority without the need to yell. Mr. Gregory Hayes and Ms. Michelle Hayes, you are being accused of financial fraud, theft, forgery of documents, and elder abuse. Gregory let out a nervous laugh. What? This is ridiculous. Mom, what did you tell these people? The truth, I responded. I told them the truth you've been hiding. What truth? I haven't hidden anything. Arthur opened his briefcase and pulled out documents. He placed them on the coffee table one by one, like a prosecutor presenting evidence. Capital One credit card opened in the name of Eleanor Hayes on March 15th of last year. Current balance, $14,800. Did you authorize this card, Ms. Hayes? No, I answered firmly. That was a bank error, Gregory shouted. I was going to tell you, Mom. When? I asked. When you couldn't pay it anymore? Arthur continued. Citibank personal loan, $5,000, requested in the name of Eleanor Hayes 1 year ago. Money transferred to the account of Gregory Hayes. Did you authorize this loan? No. Michelle stepped forward. Eleanor, you're confused. You signed those papers. We explained everything to you. You explained it to me? My voice rose in volume. When? When you put papers in front of me and told me to sign without reading? We explained everything, Michelle insisted. That's a lie, Beverly interjected from her chair. I've heard them. I know how they operate. Michelle glared at Beverly with pure hatred. You nosy old buckhuts! This is your fault. You put ideas in her head. No one put anything in my head, I said. You showed me who you really are. Arthur held up another document. Home equity loan application against the property at 1222 Magnolia Street. Forged signature. This is a federal crime. Gregory went completely pale. That loan, it was for investment, to grow the money, for all of us, he exploded. You didn't even visit me when I was in the hospital. You came back from the hospital and put a separate fridge in here because my food wasn't good enough for you. That has nothing to do with it, Michelle screamed. It has everything to do with it. It shows exactly how you see me, as garbage, as something to exploit until I die. No one said that? Gregory tried to approach, but Arthur stepped in the way. Yes, they did, Beverly said calmly. I heard them. The night she returned from the hospital, Michelle told Gregory, it won't be long now. When the old lady passes, this house will be ours. It's worth $200,000. Michelle turned on Beverly, furious. That's a lie. I never said that. You did, Beverly confirmed calmly. And Gregory replied, I hope she hurries up. I'm tired of pretending to care. The words landed like bombs. Gregory opened his mouth, but nothing came out. His eyes filled with panic. That was taken out of context, he finally stammered. What context justifies wishing your mother dead? I asked, tears now falling freely. Mom, I don't want you to die. Of course not. But you want my house, my money, everything I have left. That's different. No, it's not different. You robbed me. You lied to me. You exploited me. And you were hoping I would die so you could take what little I own. Arthur took back control. We have all the documentation from the bank. $42,000 fraudulently withdrawn from Ms. Hayes' accounts in the last 2 years. Unauthorized transfers, inexplicable withdrawals, charges for services she never contracted. I was managing her finances because she asked me to, Gregory yelled desperately. Managing finances does not mean stealing, Arthur responded coldly, and it definitely does not include opening unauthorized credit accounts. Michelle changed tactics. She collapsed onto the sofa, covering her face with her hands. She started crying, dramatic tears, exaggerated sobs. "I can't believe you're doing this to us, Eleanor. After everything we sacrificed for you. We live in this horrible house to take care of you. We left our lives to be here." This horrible house that you wanted to steal from me, I thought. We weren't trying to steal it. We were just securing our future. At my expense, I finished. Gregory ran his hands through his hair. He was sweating. His eyes searched for an out, an explanation, anything. "Mom, we can fix this. We'll pay everything back, little by little, but don't do this. Don't involve lawyers. Don't destroy your own family." "Destroy my family?" I repeated, incredulous. "I'm the one destroying it, not you, who robbed me, lied to me, and treated me like dead weight." "We were desperate!" Michelle screamed. "Do you think we wanted to live like this, in this old house with a pensioner who barely survives? Then why didn't you leave? No one forced you to stay." "Because we had nowhere to go." Michelle stood up, her tears gone, replaced only by rage. "Do you know how much rent costs? Do you know how hard it is to get a job? We had no choice." "There's always a choice. The choice was not to rob me, not to exploit me." Arthur intervened again. "You have two options. First, you return every stolen cent plus interest. You leave this house immediately. You sign a legal agreement acknowledging the fraud and accepting a repayment plan. We do not file criminal charges." "And the second?" Gregory asked, his voice dead. "The second is that we file criminal charges, fraud, forgery, elder abuse. You face between 5 and 15 years in prison, criminal records, your lives ruined." The silence returned. Heavy, suffocating. Michelle was the first to speak. "We don't have $42,000, not even close." "Then start getting it," Arthur said. "Sell everything you bought with stolen money. The clothes, the shoes, the electronics, all of it." "That won't even bring in $10,000, she protested. "Then get real jobs, 2 jobs if necessary, and pay monthly until the debt is fully covered." "Gregory," Arthur continued, "you have until noon tomorrow to choose. Option 1 or option 2. Gregory slumped into a chair. He looked destroyed, small, nothing like the son I had raised. "Mom," he said, his voice broken, "are you really going to do this? Destroy your own son?" "You destroyed yourself, Gregory. I am only protecting myself. I'm your son, your only family." "A son doesn't steal from his mother. A son doesn't wish her dead. A son doesn't treat her like garbage. We love you. You don't love me. You love my money. You love my house. You never loved me. Maybe when you were a little boy, but that boy died a long time ago." Gregory started to cry. Real tears this time. Sobs from someone who finally understood he had lost everything. "Please, Mom. Please don't do this." I looked at my crying son. Part of me. The part that had carried him as a baby. The part that had cared for him when he was sick. The part that had sacrificed everything for him, wanted to give in. It wanted to hug him and say everything would be okay. But another part, the new part, the part that had woken up in that hospital, knew the truth. If I yielded now, everything would continue. The abuse, the exploitation, the cruelty. "You have until noon tomorrow to decide," Arthur said. "Option 1 or option 2. But you are leaving this house either way, today." "Today?" Michelle shrieked. "Where are we supposed to go?" "That is not my problem," I replied, "just as it wasn't your problem where I would sleep when you took my room." Arthur pulled out some final papers. "This is an immediate eviction notice. You have 2 hours to pack your personal belongings and leave." "This is illegal!" Michelle screamed. "It is not. This is Ms. Hayes's house. You are unauthorized occupants. Legally, I can call the police right now to escort you out." Gregory looked at me with pleading eyes. "Mom, please." But I said nothing. I couldn't. If I spoke, I would break. Beverly stepped closer and took my hand. Her silent support gave me strength. "Time is running," Arthur said, checking his watch. 2 hours. Michelle ran upstairs. Gregory followed her more slowly, looking at me one last time. In his eyes, I saw many things: rage, fear, pain, but I saw no genuine remorse, and that told me everything I needed to know. The next 2 hours were the longest of my life. I heard their movements upstairs, drawers opening violently, closets being emptied, Michelle screaming, Gregory responding in a broken voice, the sound of things being thrown in anger. Beverly, Arthur, and I stayed in the living room, waiting, watching, making sure they didn't take anything that didn't belong to them. "Are you okay?" Beverly asked, squeezing my hand. I wasn't. I was shattered inside. But I also felt something strange, something I hadn't felt in years. I was reclaiming my dignity. "I'll be fine," I replied. After 40 minutes, Michelle came downstairs dragging a suitcase. Her face was red from crying or from rage, probably both. "I need to get things from the kitchen. My utensils, my dishes." "The dishes belong to the house," I said firmly. "You are not taking anything that was here before you arrived." "I bought those dishes with stolen money. They stay." Michelle glared at me with pure hatred. "You miserable old woman. You ruined your son's life. You ruined him as a child with your poverty, and now you ruin him as an adult with your selfishness." Every word was designed to hurt me, to make me doubt, to destroy me. But it no longer worked. "No, you ruined your own lives with your decisions. I'm just protecting myself." "Protecting?" Michelle let out a hysterical laugh. "From what? From your own family? You'll end up alone, Eleanor, completely alone, because that's what you are, a bitter old woman who pushes everyone away." "I prefer to be alone than surrounded by thieves." Michelle opened her fridge in a fury, the fridge with her labels. She started taking things out, bottles of wine, expensive cheeses, meats. She shoved everything into bags. "This is mine. I bought this with my money." "Go ahead," I said. "Take it all." Arthur observed every movement, taking notes, photographing what they took. Everything documented. Gregory came downstairs with 3 large suitcases. He looked aged, as if he had lost 10 years in 2 hours. "Mom, for the last time, reconsider. We're family." "Family doesn't steal." "We made mistakes, yes. I admit it. But we can fix this. Give me a chance." "I gave you thousands of chances. You wasted them all." He started carrying the suitcases toward the door. Michelle was still emptying the fridge, determined to take every last piece of food. When she finished, the new fridge was completely empty. Only the labels with her name remained. Shelley, 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 reminders of her arrogance. "Where will you go?" Beverly asked gently. "We have friends," Michelle replied bitterly. "People who actually appreciate us, unlike this woman." "Then go with those people who appreciate you," I said. They made 3 more trips: clothes, shoes, electronics, the giant television they had bought. They loaded everything into the car. On the last trip, Gregory stopped at the door. He looked at me one last time. "One day you'll regret this, Mom. When you're alone in this empty house, when there's no one to take care of you, when you realize you needed us." "I don't need you. I never did. I just needed you to respect me, and you never did." Michelle walked past him, carrying the last bag. "Let's go, Greg. This place smells like poverty and resentment." Gregory followed her. The car was packed with their belongings. They got in. The engine started. I watched them drive away through the window. The car disappeared around the corner, and just like that, after a year-long nightmare, they were gone. My legs gave out. I sat on the sofa, and the tears started to fall. Not tears of sadness. They were liberation, relief, pain, all mixed into a deep sob that came from the core of my being. Beverly hugged me. "It's over. They're gone. You did the right thing," Arthur added. "I know it hurts, but you did the right thing." I cried for 10 minutes. I let it all out. Years of pain, of humiliation, of silent abuse. When I finally calmed down, I looked around. The house was a mess. Open drawers, scattered things, traces of their presence everywhere. But it was mine again. "What happens now?" I asked. Arthur opened his briefcase. Now we wait for their decision. By noon tomorrow, we'll know if they choose option 1 or option 2, and if they don't respond? Then we automatically proceed with criminal charges. We already have everything. The bank will file its own fraud complaint. This is serious, Eleanor, very serious. I nodded. Part of me, the maternal part that would never completely die, hoped Gregory would choose the right option, that he would admit his guilt, repay what he stole, and at least try to redeem himself. But another part knew the truth. Gregory and Michelle only regretted being caught, not what they did. Beverly stayed with me that night. She wouldn't let me be alone. She made dinner. We tidied up the house a bit. We talked about trivial things, her plants, the weather, everything but what had just happened. When I finally went to sleep, for the first time in a year, I slept in my own room. They had left the bed unmade. The sheets still smelled like Michelle's perfume, but it was my room, my space. I changed the sheets, opened the windows for fresh air, and cleaned away the traces of their presence. When I lay down in my bed, in my room, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. The next morning, I woke up with the sun streaming through the window. Beverly was already in the kitchen making breakfast. "Morning. How did you sleep?" "Better than in months," I answered honestly. We had breakfast together, eggs, toast, coffee, simple but delicious. "Do you think they'll respond before noon?" I asked. Beverly shrugged. "I don't know. But if they don't, Arthur is ready to proceed." The hours passed slowly. 10 in the morning, 11:30. At 10 past 12, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. "Hello?" "Mom." Gregory's voice sounded different, tired, defeated. "What do you want?" "I need to talk to you. I can come to the house, just me. Michelle stayed where we are." I looked at Beverly. She nodded. "Come, but Arthur will be present." "Okay." I hung up and called Arthur. He arrived in 15 minutes. At 12:05, Gregory knocked on the door. I opened it. He looked terrible. Deep bags under his eyes, wrinkled clothes, uncombed hair. We went into the living room and sat down. Arthur had his notepad ready. "I accept option 1, Gregory said without preamble. "You will sign the agreement. You will acknowledge the fraud. You will commit to repaying everything?" Arthur asked. "Yes, everything. But I need time. I don't have the money right now. How much do you have?" "None. 0. We spent it all." Arthur did some quick math in his notepad. $42,000 plus 5% annual interest is approximately $47,000. If you pay $500 a month, it will take nearly 8 years. "I don't have a job? I can't commit to $500 right now." "Then get a job. 2 jobs if necessary. This is non-negotiable." Gregory ran his hands over his face. "Michelle left me. When I told her I would accept option 1, she called me a coward and took off. I don't know where she is." I felt no pity. I felt nothing. "That's between you and her. The agreement is with you. She will face her own legal process." "I know." Gregory looked directly at me for the first time. "Mom, I'm sorry. I really am sorry." "I'm not interested in your apology. I'm interested in you paying back what you stole." "I'll pay it all back, I swear." Arthur pulled out documents. "Sign here and here and here." Gregory signed without reading. His hand trembled. "You will pay $300 per month until you secure stable employment, then $500. The first payment is due in 30 days. If you miss a single payment, we will file criminal charges immediately." "Understood." We finished the paperwork in silence. When it was done, Gregory remained seated, as if waiting for something. "Anything else?" I asked. Can we ever fix this, our relationship?" I looked at him. My only son, the baby I had carried, the boy I raised, the man who betrayed me. "I don't know, Gregory. Honestly, I don't know." He stood up slowly, walked toward the door, and paused. "I love you, Mom. I know you don't believe it, but I love you." I didn't answer. I let him leave. When the door closed, I released the breath I had been holding. "That's it. Arthur said. He signed. He is legally obligated. And Michelle? She will face her own process. The bank will pursue her for the fraudulent cards. She won't escape. Justice was in motion, slow but inevitable. 3 months passed since that day, 3 months of rebuilding, of healing, of learning to live again. Gregory made the first payment, exactly $300. It arrived via bank transfer, without a note, without a message, just the money. He paid the second month and the third. We didn't talk, we didn't see each other. There was only that monthly transfer that arrived punctually, proof that he was at least trying to remedy what he destroyed. Michelle, on the other hand, disappeared completely. The bank initiated legal action against her. There was a warrant for her arrest for fraud, but no one knew where she was. She probably fled to another city, maybe another state. I didn't care. As long as she didn't come back into my life, she could be anywhere. The house slowly became mine again. Beverly helped me redecorate. We painted the walls a warm cream color. We bought new curtains with small floral patterns. We reorganized the furniture. The new fridge, the one with Michelle's labels, I sold it. A neighbor bought it for a good price. With that money, I bought plants for the garden. Roses, lavender, sunflowers. My old fridge stood alone in the kitchen, as it should have been all along, and I filled it with food I liked. Fresh fruits, vegetables, a piece of pie on Sundays. Beverly became more than a neighbor. She became family, the family I chose. We had tea every afternoon. We walked in the park on Saturdays. We watched old movies on Sundays. You know what the best part of all this is? She asked me one day as we watered the plants together. You got your smile back. She was right. I had started smiling again, laughing, feeling genuine joy. The money the bank recovered was deposited into my account. Not all of it, but a significant portion, $18,000 that were returned after the investigation. The rest would come through Gregory's payments over the next few years. With that money, I fixed things in the house that had been broken for years. The leaky roof, the bathroom plumbing, the garage door, practical things that gave me peace of mind. I also set aside some for emergencies. I had learned my lesson. I would never be financially vulnerable again. Arthur still visited occasionally, always professional, but also warm. He helped me organize my legal documents, creating a real, protected will that no one could manipulate. Your house will go to whoever you decide, he explained, and I've put protections in place so that no one can change this without your physical presence and a mental capacity evaluation. Thank you, Arthur, for everything. It's an honor to help you, Eleanor. You are stronger than you realize. Perhaps he was right. I had discovered a strength I didn't know I possessed, the strength to set boundaries, to say no, to protect myself. One day, 4 months after everything, I was in the garden pruning the roses when I saw a car park in front of my house. My heart raced. Gregory? Michelle? But no. It was a young woman in her 30s with a small child by the hand. She approached timidly. Miss Hayes? Yes, that's me. My name is Naomi Bell. Well, this is hard to say. I'm Gregory's new girlfriend. The world paused for a second. He told me everything about what he did, about how he hurt you. Naomi lowered her gaze. I wanted you to know that he's changing. Truly. He has 2 jobs now. He's paying his debts. He's going to therapy. I didn't know what to say. I'm not here to ask you to forgive him, Naomi continued. I know that's your decision. I just wanted you to know that he's trying to be better for his son. I looked at the child. He must have been about 4 years old, with big, curious eyes. You're my grandma? My heart broke and healed at the same time. Yes, little one. I'm your grandma. Naomi smiled softly. You don't have to decide anything now. I just wanted you to know. They left after a few minutes, but that encounter left me thinking for days. Could I ever forgive Gregory? I didn't know. The damage had been profound. The betrayal still cut deep. But now there was a grandson, an innocent child who was not to blame for anything. Beverly found me crying that afternoon. I told her everything. "What are you going to do?" she asked. "I don't know. Part of me wants to close that door forever. The other part remembers that Gregory was a good boy once before everything went wrong. You don't have to decide today or tomorrow. Take your time." And so I did. I took my time. 2 months later, on my 69th birthday, I received a letter. It was from Gregory, handwritten, several pages long. In it, he didn't ask for forgiveness. He didn't justify himself. He simply talked about his process, his therapy, his work, his relationship with his son, his regrets. At the end, he wrote, "I don't expect you to forgive me, Mom. I don't deserve it. I just want you to know that every day I try to be the man you raised, the one who was lost for so long. I love you. I have always loved you, even if my actions said the opposite." I put the letter in a drawer. I didn't respond. I wasn't ready yet, but I didn't throw it away either. Another month passed. Beverly organized a small party at my house. She invited neighbors, friends from her book club. The house filled with laughter, with human warmth, with people who genuinely enjoyed my company. I looked around and realized something. I wasn't alone. Michelle had said I would end up alone, but she was wrong. I was surrounded by people, by real affection, by genuine respect. That night, after everyone had left, I sat in my room, in my house, my home. I thought about the whole journey, from that horrible night when I returned from the hospital and found that dividing fridge, from the humiliation, the abuse, the betrayal, to this moment, free, dignified, at peace. I had learned so many difficult lessons, that love cannot come with conditions, that family isn't just blood, that setting limits isn't selfishness, it's survival, that asking for help isn't weakness, it's courage. I had learned that I deserved respect, that my life had value, that my well-being mattered, and most importantly, I had learned that it's never too late to defend yourself. It's never too late to reclaim your dignity. I took my phone and wrote a short message. "Gregory, I received your letter. I'm not ready to see you yet, but I would like to meet Bernard formally when you and I are both ready to talk as adults. No lies, no manipulation, just honesty. Think about it." I sent the message before I could regret it. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. Maybe it would never be complete forgiveness, but it was a first step. It was something. His reply came minutes later. "Thank you, Mom. Whenever you're ready. No pressure. I love you." I turned off the phone and looked out the window. The moon shone over my garden. The flowers I had planted swayed in the breeze. Tomorrow would be another day, with its challenges, its joys, its surprises. But I would face it from a different place, from my strength, from my peace, because I had learned the most important lesson of all, that true family isn't the one that makes you feel small. It's the one that helps you grow. Real love doesn't exploit, it supports. And sometimes, the greatest courage is simply saying, enough. I went to sleep that night feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. Not hope for a return to the past. That past was dead. But hope to build a future. One where I mattered. Where my voice was heard. Where my boundaries were respected. And as I drifted off, I smiled. Because finally, after all that time, I had come home. Not to a physical house, but to myself. And that was the greatest victory of all.